Hello, everybody. My name is Maria Carola, and today we're joined by our friend from PIVXs. Actually, good question. I don't know how to pronounce it because I'm human garbage.
Right, I pronounce it PIVX.
PIVX. Okay.
But I am English, and the Americans who claim to speak English, some of them pronounce it PIVX, and they enjoy butchering the language. So
PIVX is kind of more like it has its flair, so probably we're going to use this version today.
Exactly.
And so, great. Today we're joined by a friend from PIVX, and I would love you to make a little introduction of yourself, just to everybody who will be watching this interview.
Okay, so I'm Cryptosi. I'm from PIVX. I work generally in governance, so that is helping to define how the masternodes cooperate together and how the budget is dispensed, I guess is a good word to say. But what that really means is I end up being sort of a jack of all trades. So I do a lot of community management, a lot of business development, alliances is a thing that I'm really big on, which is like decentralized partnerships. And yeah, in a nutshell, that's my role within the project. Obviously, bit of my background, I guess, my incentives for being in crypto is for it to be an alternative to fiat currency, to pounds, dollars, and euros or whatever. I'm not really one of these people who wants the end of fiat currency. I'm not quite that extreme. I think people should have a choice. If you want to be scammed by your government, that's fine. It's up to you. There's no problem with that. But for me personally, I prefer to have my own value safe, where only I can see it and I can use it. Getting into PIVX, originally I was very, very interested in Dash. Dash made a move towards usability. I think it was probably the right move. They moved away from privacy. It was probably the right move, but they just done it in the wrong way. So with governance really being something I was very, very, and still am very passionate about, I decided that I would follow PIVX more. The community itself was a little bit more inclusive than Dash was at the time. And therefore I ended up getting roped into doing more and more and more until here we are today, pretty much. Privacy wasn't top of my agenda. I didn't really understand it so much, didn't really understand the importance of it. To be honest with you, when I first got into cryptocurrency, it was more about the freedom. But now that I do understand the privacy, in all honesty, I can't see myself working or doing anything in a crypto that doesn't have privacy now. I think a crypto without privacy it's like a chocolate teapot, really. It's pretty much useless. So yeah, so in a nutshell, that's me, Cryptosi.
Okay, this is great. So your ideas are more or less like cryptocurrency's alternative like payment methods. So it should be somehow balanced in between fiat and like other options that you have, which is cryptocurrency. So this is more of a kind of use case scenario, not necessarily all these ideas of super decentralized society and all this stuff, but it's an actual kind of real world value.
Yeah, well, not only payments, also store of value. So I guess the gold standard is Bitcoin. Bitcoin currently is much more useful as a store of value than it is as a payment channel.
Yeah, sure,
because
of course
it's too slow and it's too expensive. However, as a store of value, if you've been storing your value in Bitcoin over the last 10 years, as long as you didn't buy it between December and I guess March of 2018, December 2017, when you didn't buy it between then, your value has gone up. It's been a good store of value. So it's not just payments, but it's also store of value. And that's even before we get into like utility tokens like Ethereum and things like that. So for me, I think crypto is the next internet. For me, it's massive. The options, the opportunities is what I want to say. The opportunities are huge. So yeah. So it's more than just payments for me. More than just payments.
So when talking about PIVX, we are talking about a project that concentrates on privacy a lot, which is something that you personally find very important as well, as you already said. What do you think is this vision that's like ultimate vision of PIVX, besides the privacy feature, which is definitely important? Like, how would you define the scope of the activities and the scope of ideas that's formed PIVX generally?
Okay, that's a great question. If you ask 10 different members of the team, you'll probably get 10 different answers. Okay, so for me personally, PIVX it's extremely important because I guess first and foremost is privacy. First and foremost is privacy. And the reason why we have to keep that first and foremost is because I've been in projects before like Dash where privacy was first and foremost until someone dangled the carrot. So the thing with privacy is, I guess governments or people in control, they won't want you to have that power. So they will say, if you move it from an exchange to somewhere else, you have to do KYC. We have to know what you're doing, etc., etc. So some people will give that up. For us, it's very important that no matter what happens to us, we don't give that up. And we have, so far in the project's lifecycle, we have lived through some of those decisions. So we have been on exchanges, pretty big exchanges, especially in Asia and Korea. We was on a few exchanges, and they outlawed privacy, so we had to get taken off of those exchanges. It's a dent to the project. It does hurt the project. It would be easier and it would be better for us financially if we decided, okay, we'll leave it to one side. But the idea is we're not going to be sidetracked. So I don't know if you'd call it focused or stubborn, somewhere between the two. But basically, we no matter what happens, we've got a manifesto, and the first line of the manifesto reads that privacy is non-negotiable, which means that regardless of whatever happens, if we make loads and loads of money, or lose loads and loads of money, or all of us get oppressed by our governments in our local area, a lot of us have had our bank accounts closed down, X, Y, and Z. If that all happens, it happens. The end goal is to give this option to the world. And I guess that brings me on to, I guess, my second biggest part of PIVX for me personally is that it has to be something that is not only used by the world, but representative of the world. And that in itself is extremely difficult, as we've learned to understand. It's extremely difficult. So PIVX is one of, I would say, very few projects which genuinely has a team and a community from all corners of the world. Our Discord is alive 24 hours a day, because when the Americans go to sleep, or when the British wake up, when we wake up, the Americans haven't woken up yet. I generally like that time because, you know, the Canadians can be a bit rambunctious and the Americans can be a bit loud and aggressive. So I like it early in the morning when it's just the Europeans. That then there's also a time when it's later on, the people in Asia will get on, and we generally have a very worldwide kind of view towards the currency. We've implemented other things on a technical level as well, because it's not all about human interaction, but on a technical level, things like cold staking, which allow people who maybe don't have the bandwidth that we're accustomed to in Europe. It's easy for us to get on a call and use all of this bandwidth to send messages backwards and forwards. People in Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, bandwidth is expensive. So we can't expect them to stake. We can't expect them to stay online all the time. We can't expect them to do mining and all of those things. So we've put in some technical progress towards truly having a currency that is beneficial to the entire world and not just the lucky few who are in the developing world. I'd say for me, those are PIVX's main attributes. Privacy first and foremost, but second, we have a very big human element that not only will we deliver this, but we have to deliver it in a way that everybody can get involved and everyone can actually use. So yeah, those are the main things really for me. If you'd have asked someone else, they'd have given you different answers, and probably rightfully so. A quick anecdote: one of the things I learned personally when I was on when I've come into PIVX is there's a developer called Furzy, and me and him have spectacular arguments. It's very rare that we agree. So I will say something, and I feel like he'll just say the opposite for the sake of it. Sometimes he says stuff, and I just want to say the opposite for the sake of it. But he's a brilliantly talented developer. He's amazing. He's an amazing developer. That I'll give him that. And we were speaking in Hungary at a meetup. We had a PIVX meetup, and we were speaking, and I had said something, and I'd used the word liberty. I said, oh, something, you know, because it's about people's liberty. And when I said that to him, it awoke in him. He sat up straight, and his eyes lit up, and he was like, well, liberty is a big deal, and liberty is a big deal for people in South America, where he's from. So to them, liberty is a big deal. Like, they've lived through revolutions and things like that. So that kind of aspect, and bringing these people together in this kind of melting pot of different ideologies, different religions, different sexualities, male, female, across age groups, it's extremely difficult, but massively rewarding. Personally, I find it massively rewarding.
Yeah, this is a great connecting point, because we all, like, in the community, we have something in common. This is very hard to achieve, though, to just kind of make something that really unites, like, different people and kind of explains the same values to them, like, in a little bit of a different way, to just make them understand it better. Like, what is the strategy that you use to kind of get the ideas out there and kind of like to unite all these people, and not just give them some idea that this is going to save you, this is like the ultimate tool that you're going to use for everything, but to really make them understand and make them united as one kind of community?
I'd say the thing we do the most is probably argue. Argue is probably the thing that we do the most, if I'm honest. And through those arguments, we develop a mutual respect. And the mutual respect is the foundation. So another anecdote is we've got a brand guru. Okay, so he's the man behind the company who built the PIVX brand. When I initially joined PIVX, it was called Darknet, and it was generally a bunch of North American males, straight white males, North American, a very small demographic, and they had their idea, and it was Darknet, and it was kind of, we're going to fight the man, and we're not, and it was, and I could subscribe to that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm up for that. That's great. But that didn't really involve everybody. So when this guy came along, a Canadian guy from Rhubarb Media, they're called, he came along and he said, well, look, guys, we need something that is more family friendly, so we can invite everyone. We had an African guy, a child, literally a child. I think he was 16 at the time. And he was doing marketing for us from Ghana in West Africa. And what Chad, the guy from Rhubarb Media, had said is, what we need to do is we need to have our brand and everything we do okay for not only this child, but other children. So we need to set a family environment. The project PIVX before was called Darknet. So what we then done was we set about restructuring the branding. Chad set about restructuring the branding. I've lost my train of thought.
You were talking about the inclusion and about like
right, okay, yes. So Chad, so what he had done is he decided we're going to have this video. So he made this video, brilliant video. He'd made this video, and in the video, the idea was that the PIVX community is like a family, and the family is the community. The family is PIVX, X, Y, and Z. So he made this video. The video was brilliant, amazingly done, well shot, well lit. Everything was perfect, and everybody was eating and drinking and Chad's from Canada. As this is happening, they're having hog roast. They're having a hog roast. No big deal. So once the video had been shot and completed, I said to Chad, well, Chad, I don't think we can have hog roast in the video that represents the values of PIVX, because I don't know, maybe a quarter of the world are Muslim, and to them eating pig is haram. So if we're going to do something that is the whole of the world, how can we all be there sitting there saying, well, this is what family is, we're going to indulge in haram? It's to a quarter of the world, it's literally insulting. But
that's a good point. Yeah.
Right. And these are the things that we have to argue about. And it wasn't really so much an argument as it was maybe for Chad, it was an enlightening moment. And it was a moment where things that a lot of people take as gospel, because they're in their own bubble their whole lives. So to him and his other Canadian friends, hog roast is literally like a national dish. It's like, I don't know, pie and mash for an Englishman, or jollof rice and beef stew for a Nigerian. It's a national dish. So to have that challenged and those values challenged is very difficult. And those are the types of things that we generally argue about often. And that's the foundation with which we managed to get this more unifying message out there. Because I think we're doing a lot better than most projects when it comes to inclusivity and unification, let alone technology. I guess we can get into technology soon, but if our technology is not the best, which if it's not now, it definitely will be soon, our inclusivity and things like that they're above average for sure. So yeah, and that's basically how we do it. We just muddle our way through it. There is no golden rule, and I don't think there are many places where these sorts of things have happened before. The internet is kind of new, cryptocurrency is very new, and projects like PIVX are newer still. With this level of decentralization, you're going to run into a lot of arguments, and basically that's what we do most of the time, is we argue. We really we go against each other's things, we push each other, we test each other's resolve and our beliefs in our own traditions, and we change and we grow and we adapt, and it's working well for us. I would say we're in a lot better position than we were 2 or 3 years ago as individuals and as a project.
Yeah, that's great to hear. It's actually very interesting how you base so many things on this like human factor, the sociological, the cultural factor, because I haven't been hearing actually that many projects, many individuals actually talking about it just as a basis, as a foundation, because everybody talks a lot about inclusivity, about like, oh yeah, we should include everybody, we're all equal, we should all work on the same thing, it doesn't matter like where you come from, blah, 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 blah. It's all right. Yes, of course, it's all true. We shouldn't like delete one part of the community for some reason. This is horrible. And, but actually, this stands becoming a basis of like how the project develops, how it includes people. It's pretty new, so it's very interesting to hear that. But how do you explain, like, for example, the notion of privacy to all these like different people that you have to, because privacy is a thing that's been like super buzzword lately, and for very obvious, very serious reasons. And people start talking about how important it is, how like valuable it is, how we should preserve it, how we should think about it. But majority of the people have never been thinking about it before, and now they kind of feel lost and like they don't understand why, and like why is surveillance bad? Like, oh, we have been doing it the whole life, yeah, and why should we change? And like, I don't care, I have nothing to hide. This kind of things. And bringing the ideas of financial privacy, of data privacy, of any kind of privacy to them can be pretty challenging at times. So how do you define it, and how do you bring it to the people?
Generally, what we do generally is we don't. I guess what we don't do is we don't try to impose our gospel on other people. So we don't go to people and say, well, you should care about privacy. We kind of say, well, I suppose it's more a case of this is how privacy does affect you. So I think you mentioned you were in Lithuania. I don't know Lithuania very closely, but I could guarantee within an hour or so of searching, maybe even less than that, I could probably find a situation where the people of Lithuania had their privacy impinged upon. Somebody decided, let's be clever and figure out what Lithuanians think about this, and then we'll send them suitable advertising through some social media and sway their opinion so that they vote for this person, and then this happens despite it being in their best interest. We had the same thing in the UK. We had Brexit. A bunch of people decided, a few people, decided via Cambridge Analytica, just up the road from me, that they would sway the minds of the people that were kind of in the middle by bombarding them with Facebook adverts, the information that they got from them, which people wouldn't consider private because it's just their Facebook stuff, but that information should be private. They took that and they ended up swaying the minds of people and sending the country in a direction that possibly people wouldn't have gone in if they were well informed as opposed to manipulated. The Americans can say the same thing, and that's just with data. That's not even when you start to speak about money. As these things happen and you have things like WikiLeaks, you have things like Edward Snowden coming and speaking up, you have the Panama Papers, you have all of these things that happen where people are realizing that governments aren't possibly as morally altruist as they should be, and they're not always acting in people's best interests. You start to realize that they monitor the things that you do when you're buying things. And it's not only governments. I tend to pick on them, but big business as well. You go onto Facebook and you type something in, before you know it, you're on Yahoo, on the sidebar, you're getting all these messages for something that you spoke about only privately. And this is happening a lot. And people are now realizing not that they're doing anything wrong, but why should all that information be out there? And it's at that point when they do find projects like PIVX, I will say to them, okay, like, you are right, and this is the place you should be. You should use these tools. If you use these tools, then you're just making the transactions between you and the person you're transacting with. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It shouldn't be anyone else's business, and that's how it stays. So to sum up, I guess we don't impose the story upon other people. What we do is we try to explain, not only is it's not a niche for bad guys. It's not a place only for bad guys to go and buy drugs or, I don't know, do any other kind of free thinking things that the government doesn't want you to do, or things that are against the law. It's not only for those sorts of things. It's also just, if you value and respect the opinions and the free thought of other people and yourself, it's good if you indulge yourself in these type of privacy preserving things. It's healthier for you. It's just better. It's better for humanity. And when you start to explain those things to people, privacy is one of those things that once they really get it, they don't leave it. Nobody has been into privacy and then decides, oh, do you know what? I'm a bit bored of that now. I'll go elsewhere, because it's important. And once people delve in and they go down the rabbit hole, they tend to keep on digging. And that's kind of how we approach it. We don't push people. We just allow them, when they do come in, we say, okay, well, this is what we're doing and this is why. And people always, even if they disagree about everything else, even if they're right wing or they're left wing, one thing they have in common is that they want their self-sovereignty. So that's what we really we work with. We work with people's own opinions and what they want to do, and we just help educate them on privacy.
Okay, this is a better approach, probably not trying to kind of push it, but trying to educate and trying to just get them on board somehow. But for those, I think it's going to be probably my last question, kind of about just general perspective and how do you work. What would you tell personally and from the point of PIVX to the people who are not yet into cryptocurrency or who are just starting their journey in crypto generally and probably don't know their ways yet, so they haven't formed any opinions and they just kind of like doing some, some like research and want to join but don't have enough knowledge? What would be your advice to them?
Firstly, I guess I would say with crypto, my first thing I would say personally is don't join crypto to make more fiat. Um, a lot of people get into crypto for the wrong reasons, and everybody's got to eat, everybody's got to make money. But I would say my first thing would be don't chase the money. Try to understand the reason why this thing started in the first place. Crypto wasn't started. Satoshi didn't start Bitcoin so that he could become rich. You know what I mean? He's probably the richest, or they are probably the richest people, or she, who knows, probably the richest person on the, well, one of the richest, the rich person in crypto for a start. But there'll be a very rich person, and they haven't touched that money, and there's a reason why. It's bigger than that. If you're in crypto to try and make fiat money, you probably will be successful, chances are, because most people who get into crypto make more money than they lose. Most people do. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it will be for the time being. But there are bigger things, and once you start to picture and understand the bigger things, the money will just come anyway. Your value will increase because you are solving problems that exist in the world. A lot of entrepreneurs and people will say, if you want to make money, and the equivalent within crypto circles would be, if you want to create value, you solve a problem. Cryptos generally solve problems. So I'd say first and foremost would be to focus on that. The second thing I always say to people who are just getting into crypto is apply your own skills to a project. Find a hobby, find a project that is small, and get involved. Don't be shy. Always don't be backwards and going forwards. So just go forwards, add your skills to that project. If you're good at drawing, then design. If you're good at writing, then write. If you're technically inclined, review the code. If you technically inclined but you're not a great coder, then write documents. Loads of crypto projects don't have great documentation. There's a million and one things that people can do to get involved. So my thing would be to get involved in a project. If you get involved in a project, the project doesn't have to be mass adopted. And if you want to make money, or not if you want to, everyone has to. If you're regular and you have to make money, that'd probably be the best way to fund this hobby of yours. So that's what I would say. I would say get involved and don't be led by the promise of riches and Lambos. Lambos are nice, but there's probably bigger things that we need to worry about, that we need to fix for now. There's no point you have a Lambo and your neighbor has nothing. Your neighbor steals your Lambo. Now you have nothing. It's kind of pointless. You ended up crashing the Lambo, trying to get away from the police, and then now there's no Lambo, and you and your neighbor have no Lambo. So the think about self-sovereignty, but also think about what we're doing for humanity, how we're trying to move everyone forward, and yeah, this is I guess the next stage of the technological development of mankind would be money on blockchain. So it's a lot of things are happening here. Get involved would be what I would say.
Hey, this is great advice. So do you think that the future is kind of in togetherness?
Yes, definitely. I would say I'm going to go out on a whim here, and I'm going to say the biggest thing that we will have in crypto in the next 12 months will be interoperability. It will be the ability to move value between Monero and PIVX, and then between PIVX and Zcoin, between Zcoin and Nano, between Nano and Devolt, between Devolt and Hive, between Hive and BlockDX. That will be the biggest thing we have, I would say, within the next 12 months. The idea, when we got into crypto, when everybody created crypto and we all started to fall into it, we all start to use words like mass adoption, and we see it as a winning condition. Oh, well, which currency is going to be the best? Da, 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 da. I think in this next coming 12 months, I think that will start to change. And what people will start to realize is it's all about being able to move your value as frictionlessly as possible through whichever currency you decide to use for whatever purpose. So changing your value from PIVX to Bitcoin should be like changing your shoes. It should be really easy. And I'm going to go on a whim and say that will be what the majority of us are working towards in the next 12 months, I would say.
Yeah, interoperability is something that people generally talk a lot right now, and it's something that seems to be uniting the space in general. Like, it's literally and figuratively in both ways. So it will be pretty exciting to actually see the results of it. And if you say 12 months, well, we can discuss it later and see how it actually went. That would be exciting. And for today, I believe that will be the end of our chat. Would you like to add something for everybody who would be watching it later when we upload the video?
Yes, what can I add? PIVX on a technical level, because I'll get slaughtered by the developers for not mentioning this. We're moving forward to our own implementation of Sapling, which is a zero knowledge protocol, which has been made by the guys over at Zcash. So shout out to them, great work. We're going to have our own implementation. Yeah, it'll be slightly different to theirs. We're proof of stake, they're proof of work. Quick background is that proof of stake means that you don't have miners who are separate to the actual project mining the thing. What happens is you have it like interest in a bank account. If you're no, it's not like interest in a bank account. If you have money in your PIVX wallet and you're helping to secure the chain, you're helping to process the transactions, you're securing the blocks, then you get a piece of the new blocks. So that's what we are. We're proof of stake as opposed to Zcash. So that will be moving through to Sapling. That should be coming out in Q4. Once that comes out, I would argue that PIVX will be in the argument as the most private cryptocurrency that there is. Not to say anything bad against Monero, X, Y, or Z, but it's good to have this type of competition. Also, on another note, it's also interesting to know that if you have been interested in privacy before, and for whatever reason you felt like it was too expensive, like the transactions were too costly, it's a good time to re-look into it. Now we're getting to a stage where we can have private transactions on the mobile phones, so you can take your privacy with you. We've taken some massive leaps with this new protocol. There are the costs per transaction on a technical level are far lower, so the doors for privacy have really opened up. The space, I would say, is going to become very, very interesting in the next few years, next few months even. As we know, the Americans are printing money like it's nothing. The Europeans are printing money like it's nothing. And there are going to be these type of capital controls. They already exist in Europe. You can't take £1,000 in cash and buy something. These are capital controls. The move to privacy is going to happen, and the technology is finally at a place where we're ready for a lot more people to come and use it. So yeah, other than that, I guess that's about it. I know I'm probably missing something, but I'll have to just take my medicine when it happens.
No, every time we're missing something, we just make a promise that we'll meet again for like another interview and mention everything that we have missed. Also, their Twitter comments and everything in this life. So I would like to thank you very much for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking to you. I really love your ideas on everybody like joining and doing one thing and moving the space forward and moving even the world forward at some point. This is great. This is like very deep sociological and philosophical topic that I will be thinking for the whole day. And it was great chatting with you. And of course, we'll let you know once this interview goes live. And thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.